It's the game between Indian IM Ameya Audi and Russian GM Boris Savchenko from the KIIT Open in Bhubaneswar. Ameya is a talented IM from India. He is a rook up in this position, but black has many pawns. Ameya goes rook h1. His idea is to take on h5. Notice that the pawn is pinned, and then mate his opponent with queen to h8. It seems like black's king is in trouble, but Savchenko calmly plays his king to g8. And now Ameya moves in with his king. He realizes that if his king can escape from perpetual checks, then he can have some great winning chances because of the extra rook. Meanwhile, you cannot underestimate these two black pawns on the queen side. Queen d2 check, and the king moves into c5. Now there are no checks in the position, and black has to decide how to continue here. Savchenko thinks it's the right time to push the pawn. If he pushes his pawn 2 more squares, then he would get a new queen on the board. Ameya has to do something about it. He pushes his pawn to g4. He wants to open up the black king. How does Savchenko react to it? He goes h4 here. And very interesting, because if you take the pawn, queen f2 check, you lose the rook. But a very good move would have been rook h3. Instead, he went g5. The idea of rook h3 is to swing your rook over to a3 to get it into the game. But after g5, pawn is pushed to a2. Amazing. Ameya decides to play a check. Notice that both players are down to their last minute. He brings his queen back, gaining another 30 seconds on the clock. Is the game going to end in a draw? White can repeat at any point, and I think Savchenko would be more than happy with a draw here. But Ameya is ambitious. He goes king to c6. He wants to win this game. And Savchenko very calmly brings his queen back to d8. So the queen is now defending her king, and at the same time the a2 pawn prevents the rook from getting activated. Rook takes h4 was played here, and now queen c8 check would have been the right move, followed by queen e6, and the game is drawish. But instead he goes f6. This is a big blunder, because now after pawn takes, there are some big threats in the position. If black doesn't do anything, then f7 check followed by rook h8 is just curtains over here. So Savchenko brings his bishop back, but in a way he has just allowed white to open up his rook. Now rook h1, excellent move by Ameya. He stops the pawn from queening. Queen c8 by Savchenko, and now Ameya can take that b5 pawn. But instead he keeps his king on b6. This is still winning, completely winning. And now Boris pushes his pawn to b4. Here bishop c6 would have been good, followed by an attack, but instead he offers his queen for trade. And this is a big error, because now Savchenko does not have to avoid the queen trade in spite of being a rook down, because he has those two huge passers on the queen side. So what does he do? He pushes the pawn, and now there's a huge threat in the position to play b2 and make a queen. White is now in trouble, it seems. Ameya finds the only move in the position, rook a1, which is actually the best move in the position and the only way to draw. b2 is played. Takes on a2. You can see Savchenko shaking his head. He knows that he has just survived by the skin of his teeth. Bishop takes g6, and he promotes it to a bishop. He could have also made a queen, but decides to promote it to a bishop. Nice little point there. And Ameya pushes his pawn to f7. 3 light squared bishops on the board. King f8, bishop takes b1, bishop takes b1, and the players now going to agree to a draw. Who is sad here? Of course it's Ameya. And you can see this post-game analysis where you can see how the players analyze.
Okay, man. Very good.